Storytime. Speaker Builder, the Loudspeaker Journal. It's not really Speaker Builder magazine, but so it's a industry journal. So this is issue number 7 from 1994. You can build a dream 15-inch transmission line woofer. Home theater on the cheap. Inductor crossover geography. And dressing the box for company. And IMP resources, a sow's ear. Also a bullock on crossover puzzles. So I don't know what that means. Again, this is hyper speaker nerd talk, which I'm not even privy to. I'm not even that deep into it. So, but you know, I really like the magazine over the years. There you go. That is, wow. That's who made these? M&K. Okay, so they have one driver flipped reverse for whatever reason. I guess this is a woofer for mid bass, and then these are the tweeters. I don't know, or maybe these are mids. Let's see what it says. 20th anniversary, blah, flagship, blah, 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 blah. Push-pull drivers use controlled vertical directivity by wiring capabilities, blah, 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 blah. Whatever, it's just kind of baloney. How much were they? Does it say? No. Some shitty radio from Rocket Science. And then whatever, some PA shit from the Celestian. Other good news. Oh, this is Image. They support these products. Good news, cigarette juice. Speaker special, Xylotrons, 1995. Speaker catalog. T.C.O.Z, Polydex, Urs. Holographic injected molded graphite subwoofers. Graphite. Wow, they're poly. We have these. So they were used by, Cadence used them. Out of Howell, New Jersey. Mauser is great too. Mauser and DigiKey are the two ones that I used to use whenever we were repairing amplifiers. So back when I was buddies with Bernie Bolin. Reconing speaker video. Learn how to recon video, or learn how to recon speakers for only $39. Comes in VHS or is it DVD or just VHS? What does it say? How to order parts, how to do that. Oh, that's cute. In 1994, that was a big deal, man. Coil Crosstalk. There you go. Polydex and Audex. The ultimate. They, magazines used to have these little cards, and you'd say, I want to be contacted from, you pick whatever the numbers from these advertisers, and then they would put you on their mailing list. It was a really convenient way to let people know that you were interested. Last time I went to CES, they had some sort of thing like that too, where they would scan your ID badge, and then that they would contact you later. By Darren K. Johns. I don't want to get too much into it because, again, it depends on how much force is actually coming out, and there's a bunch of math, and it depends on, and it's based on the FS, the fundamental of the woofer. And again, that's only at the fundamental. This is a good graph to show you the frequency response using a generator of seeing direct, which is the woofer, the solid, and the line exit. So, and you can see, what would be really good is if you could see the phase difference. So, and also the complete total output of how one affects the other. Because really a stuffed transmission line, they say it's not supposed to be a port, but it is no matter what they try. It's just a damped port, which is, I think, is not good, but whatever. So, but if you're into transmission lines, here's this thing. Here's the specs, the driver, rated, measured, and then the board dimensions, and it goes through all that stuff. So, but I'll let you buy this from, do they even advertise it on here? It's called Audio Express is the name of the company, and it's Old Colony Sound Lab, I think is the company. Anyways, I'll put a link to it in the the description, so you guys can order this one if you want. I think they're still transferring them to PDF. You may still be able to buy the actual magazine. So back in my time when we had magazines. So, and this of course is Ted and his dad, or his father-in-law, right here in Phoenix. And this is some of the stuff that they used to use. They'd sell their catalog for $10. Inductor coil crosstalk. All that is you don't want your inductors on the same plane. So in this picture, they're all in the same plane. So the north-south is just like a voice coil, because that's what this is a coil. So they're like the top, let's say the top is north and the bottom is south. And they're expanding their field of influence all around them. And so if you have them laid out on the crossover board, or even in close proximity, what happens is the frequencies that this thing is processing will crosstalk onto this other inductor if it's in the same plane. And so that's one of the reasons why you want to, if you're ever going to cross power and signal, you always want to have them at 90 degrees so that they don't crosstalk, so they don't induct, get it? Inductor, induce. They don't induce noise or signal into the other one. So this is like the worst possible way to do it, is one stacked right on top of another. You can induce a signal from here, and this is basically what a Balun transformer is. It's a one-to-one transformer where you're wanting to decouple that one signal to another, but it'll still induce. And then there's ways to get around it, which is to space them on the crossover board, but you don't have to. But this is the way it should really look. So, and then there's a third position where you can actually take this one and then turn it that way. So, but typically on a typical three-way crossover, you're not going to have any more than 3 inductors, and that's if everybody uses, 12 dB slopes and things like that. So, and this is just showing you the induction that happens when you're, how close you can put them in proximity and all that kind of stuff. So, who is this? This is Solon out of Canada, or Solon, maybe it's Solon. So anyways, quick home theater on a budget, and that's what I showed you before. So he's using a pot to control the level for, because this is your master, and then this is your surrounds. And so you would dial this in. If you wanted to replace this with 2 resistors, you could. What you do is you just dial it into what you want, and then you remove it from the circuit, and then you measure the 2 values, and then you can add that to the circuit permanently. So that way there wouldn't be any dirty pots later on and things like that. So this one actually uses a center, which again, I told you could do it. I think in order to do the center, you have to do 16 ohm drivers, which is fine. These get wired in series, these get wired in series, and then these get wired in parallel. So that way the power distribution of impedance gets distributed properly, or at least with the emphasis on left and right, which you want. That's where you want most of the power going to anyway. So, but yep, and then you just use little cheapy drivers in his setup. These are little 4s that play up to probably 15K. Just so you know, on home theater, typically, I think it's like even on THX standards, the surrounds don't have to play up past 10K. So there you go. So if you build this one, which is full range, you can actually go all the way up to 20K if you want. So, which is, as you saw in that ad in the very beginning, was that the one? Making, did I already pass it? I did pass it. Making a flagship surround speaker is not difficult. It's expensive, but it's not difficult. So you can do it at home, and that's what this whole magazine is for. So, but sometimes people go, well, I only want to do this, or I only want to build subwoofers, and then they'll buy from another brand, and that's why they advertise in this magazine. So, and that's to show you how to make the enclosure. That's how to wire stuff together. Input terminals to show polarity. Again, typically I was going to build them experimental so that you would terminate both of them to the side individually, and then you could choose whether you wanted to wire them in series parallel, and then in phase or out of phase, depending on front and rear. So, and then here is Xalitron's. Again, these are not made in like a factory. These are made in like some dude's garage. And they do a really good job, but these are really expensive. So, and some people at the time, this was a lot of money. This is 1994 plus shipping. And typically what they would do is, sometimes they would ship the cabinet separate and sell you all the parts. And then they'd sell a different couple of versions. Like if you want them to put the board together, them to solder the things, or if you wanted to do it yourself. And they were often called kits. So, and you see, the only place you really see that now is probably, Parts Express. So this is a different kind of copper foil air conductor. Instead of just a wire, like a round wire, they would use really flat film, as they call it. Again, they say it's better, whatever. If you're using inductors, you're kind of, behind the game anyway. Forgings used to be really big too. I think they made for everybody. And they made so much stuff, man. And I think they went all belly up. Silk purses, two-way salvage design. No, I don't know what they were going through with anything. See, GUI solution, Sauzier and a purses factory. I don't know. I like too that they showed you the crossover network that they came out with. So, which was really great because then you could buy the same drivers from either Matasound or Meniscus or Parts Express, and then recreate what they thought was awesome. And so then you go, oh, okay, that's what. Not that it is awesome, just that that's what they think is awesome, and that's really what you do. When you're going through a crossover and you're sitting there trying different crossover points, different slopes, things like that. They used to have things called breadboards, where you would have multiple capacitors and multiple inductors, and you could sit there and feed them through to figure out what you wanted and what you wanted to sound. Now, my experience with Rom So, also known as Richard So, over at ADS Speaker Repair, he actually did this for Diamond Audio, and he helped them, engineer a lot of stuff. And he was like, you follow the rules. What I learned from him was that you follow the rules as best you can, but then there's a point where you go, fuck it, and you want to just try some weird shit. And then especially when you do impedance sweeps and stuff like that on the driver, and if it's clean or it's not clean, and then there's another way. It's like there's so much to do. It's really, really difficult to derive a great sound that everyone agrees on and a passive crossover. They do it, but again, it's like that's somebody else's ear. It doesn't, That's why I really like active, and it's much better to do it that way, and then you can fuck around with the equalizer and the time delay and all that other stuff. So, but anyways. I don't really want to get into passive crossovers. I mean, they're fun if you don't have any money and you want to use the same source and all that stuff. They're not superior by any means than active. Active is much, much better. So, but back in the day when you'd have to build your own speakers, Sapphire number 3, at only $900 a pair, people acted like it was some super science, and they'd use like bypass capacitors and all kinds of other bullshit. So. DuPont, they're getting in on the performance. They make all kinds of speaker materials. They make Kapton, which is for voice coil, and then they make domes, and then they make spiders made out of Kapton, and they make even cones of Kapton. Use it in everything. So loudspeakers, a short history. And this basically just tells you about loudspeakers. Yes, it does have padding in it. That was pretty common. It's still common. It talks about drone cones, which is passive radiators. Talks about transmission lines. Talks about horns. Axon, Eon. I don't know. What I did find out is that if you can tell the difference between like a regular what's it called, electrolytic capacitor versus a mylar cap, what you really want to look for is voltage. That's the only thing that I've heard that makes a capacitor sound better. And I think that's because the lower voltage ones saturate more easily. And so then when they saturate, they end up causing distortion. That's what we were talking about in the LOCs and things like that. Same thing here. You want to have a really high voltage cap. That's all. If you're going to use caps. And typically, you want to make your crossover as simple as possible. I don't want to get into fucking crossovers. Orca made cables, fancy cables, and they also made Black Hole, which is better speaker. Again, it's all fluff and stuff to pander to your OCD. Pile, handmade in the USA. Oh, that was when it was bought by Harman. Wow. I thought Pile was independent. Anyways, Scan Speak drivers. This is all from Matasound. This is, and a lot of these products are still made because they're just quality products. And then they made so many of them, people bought them, they still have them after 30 years. So I bought into some of those. There was the ScanSpeak version, and then I think there was another VIFA, I think, because the ScanSpeak and VIFA ended up, basically it's the same guys. And then there was a VIFA vent that you could buy from Matasound for like $7. How much was this one? $6. Yeah. So, and all this is two pieces of plastic holding a piece of fiberglass. That's it, which you can make yourself if you want. So, but for $6, I thought it was cool, and I tried it, and they kind of suck. So I don't recommend them. Really, I love this ad. I saw this ad so many times, and it gives me a little bit of an audio boner because I just think about all the drivers and how cheap they were, and I was like, I could buy so many of them, all that kind of stuff. So now I don't have those boners. Loudspeaker recipes. So this is a next step in once you read the cookbook, he would have recipe books where he basically goes through and he helps you step by step build a kit and help you listen to what is a benchmark in the audiophile community. So, and that was Old Colony Sound Lab. They're the ones that did that. So there's their information. I don't know if it's relative anymore. So again, this was in 1994. TCH, which I don't think is in business anymore. Used to buy speaker components. They specialize in that. Another one is, I just lost the name. It's not Tequila, Tecate. It was Tecate out of Mexico. So, because we had bought out or I had bought out a pallet of the LPG drivers from Diamond Audio, or from a guy that used to work at Diamond. And we got a bunch of speaker box terminals that I'm selling as the Jizz Llama branded, what is it? Llama Guts? I think Llama Guts brand of box terminals and stuff like that. And those were all made by Tecate. And all it was just Mexican dudes with a injection machine down there in Mexico. That's all. And the reason it was made in Mexico is because it's cheap labor. That's it. But that's not true anymore. So Waylon, this guy he's just a woodworker. So, and they do a lot of cool stuff. They were talking about simple veneering. You can do a roll-on like they're doing here, and sometimes they do the veneer iron-on. What I really liked was it was a mechanical press type of veneer that they would do on MDF with a big, steam press and all that kind of stuff. And when I was in Hawaii, there was one factory that would do it. And so that's what they would make. Mostly they made like high-end cabinets and furniture and things like that, where if you wanted a zebra wood or some sort of exotic, I got African mahogany is the one that I got. And what was great was I would just use scraps. I would just, I would do work for that guy, installs and stuff like that. And then he's like, I'll just give you some scraps. And so it was veneered. It was a real veneer, but it was veneered onto MDF. And so you could make the box out of MDF, and then the outside would be great and good to go. What I personally do now, if I do any of this stuff, is I would build the box out of, say, 1/2-inch MDF. Like this is for home audio. I build that out of 1/2-inch MDF, use CNC, and make sure everything's braced and everything like that. And then what I would do is veneer it with probably a 3/8 inch or even a 1/4 inch plywood of Baltic birch. And the reason Baltic birch is because it's very strong, but it's also a neutral color. So you can stain it whatever you want. So you can stain it black or red if you want to do redwood or cherry or whatever you want to do. So, and that's really the way to go. So, and he's telling you how to cut stuff. And there he is. There's the man. He's probably dead now. Let's see. Speakers, etc. I don't know if they're in business anymore. Or that was in Phoenix too. That's the French guys. They would do French high-end stuff. And they had a little bit of a showroom. You'd go in there and they'd mistreat you. And they're like, are you going to spend $5,000 or not? And I'm like, no, I'm just here to listen. They're like, get out of here. And so I only went there like twice. And mostly it was for parts. And then when they found out I had a bunch of parts, oh, guess what? We were friends. Oh, it's fucking stupid. Meniscus, these were my guys, though. They would specialize in closeouts for all these guys. So, and they were there in Michigan near the Carbonu factory that was bought by Rockford Rats. I think it's called Rockford Audio Technology or whatever. Let's see. Where are we going over here? Oh, it's the phase indicator. This was the realistic version from Radio Shack. And then later, Rockford repackaged their version. Again, I don't really need, I just use a 9-volt battery to tell me phase. And you can even do it on a tweeter. You can see the tweeter jump in or jump out. It's not a big deal. So this was kind of cute. This was supposed to be like a universal driver from German physics, and then they spell physics wrong. And it's just meant to be 360 sound. So because the sound bounces off the cone. JVC had another version of this, smaller. I had some towers one time that I found at Goodwill. RDL Acoustics. These guys were putting the magic on the magic coating on their tweeters, and they were selling. It says new low price, $41 each, but I think it was I forget the name of them. They started selling $500 tweeters, and I'm like, I don't agree with that, but whatever. If people are gonna, we just watched the thing about Belle Delphine selling her bathwater, and I'm like, don't fucking bitch, man. If you don't like $1,000, container of bathwater, don't buy it. It's that simple. So legendary. So there are only a few ribbon makers, and again, it's a gimmick. You get way more dynamic response from a dome tweeter, and if you want lots of them, just use a whole bunch of dome tweeters. So, and you can change your diffraction for each one if you get, have a fear of comb filtering or anything like that. It's not really a big deal. And this was actually the future back then. So is actually using electronic crossovers, which is the same as an inductor and a capacitor, except they would use a resistor and a capacitor. And this is basically what X cards were on the old Rockford Fosgate. And then PPI used SIP chips, which was little resistor chips. And this just allows you to figure out where the crossover points is good to be. And then later on, you would implement either an electronic or a passive crossover to simulate the same, what's called cascade, the same filtering effects. So that's all. Crossover confusion, increase your electronic skills. Amantix audio, Champagne. They were just importing. It looks like they were just importing these things, and you could buy the panels and wire them all in parallel, series, whatever. Back issues. This is where you can order. So, and you can. There's your right there. So you can go online now. Again, it's called Audio X with the letter X and then Press. Audio Express. Not to be confused with Audio Express, which is a retailer here in Arizona, based out of Arizona. They're all over the southwest parts of California. Audio control, look at that. Making those machines, RTAs. And remember I told you, AutoSound 2000 guys, you take compressed air and just put it right up to the mic. 38, score 38 just with compressed air. That tells you it's not listening to what you think you're listening to. So under $1,000. What else? Audio frequency amplifier design. They'll sell you a design, and then you put it together yourself. That's kind of cool. They also had other magazines or whatever journals, industry journals. One was called Audio Amateur, and another one specialized in, I think, PA. The other one was Tube Amplifier Aficionado. And then in the later years, when people started moving towards the internet to get their information, they combined all of them into one magazine, which I kind of subscribed. I was like, this is getting expensive because it's on the internet for free. And I also was able to read some articles about other stuff. I'm not really interested in that other stuff, but like tube amplifiers and stuff like that, because I know it's all bullshit. So I was really just interested in speaker building, cabinet building, how to brace, and things like that, because those things were not taught back then. We didn't have the internet. Winslow, these guys built really good speaker enclosures. They were just, a couple of dudes in a wood shop basically making high-end drivers, and then they would pull drivers from Matasound and then, build their own crossovers and then sell it for whatever, 2, 3, 4, 10 grand, whatever the client wants. So, and then there was this other Speaker Works out of Tulsa. So, but the other Speaker Works I showed you, the one in Phoenix, they're the ones that own speakerworks.com, and that's the one I bought for $500 from TED, and then I resold for $900 to speakerworks.net, which I think is up in the Pacific Northwest. Aculine, planar line source. These are all just generic, by the way. Whether you get them from, was it Acoustat? And then who was the other one? PPI, ADS, Orion. I forget. There was another planar type of audio company that was under the ADST umbrella. I don't remember. Anyways, doesn't matter. They're dead. North Creek Music. These guys were really good too. They did the same thing as Winslow. So as Winslow Audio. I tended to like their stuff more as far as pornography goes, speaker pornography. I think they finally shut the website down just because I think the guy either retired or died, and he just did it for fun, and it was good to make a little bit of extra money. But again, any of their designs were just sort of DIY, and they would model after, quote unquote big companies that would bring stuff to market. That's really what you do is you piggyback on other people's R&D and take advantage of it. Perfero Sound, you guys are dicks. Speaker Design Toolbox. Software runs Windows 95. And then the ads in the back. Loudman Stereo Power Booster Kit. You make your own kit, which you can now get on AliExpress and build it yourself if you want. Acoustic foam. Rack mount stuff. Basebox 5. And of course this was easy to pirate. So you just put in your old floppy disk and make a copy. PC Audio Lab. And then the classifieds. So there's some of the classifieds. And these were open to just people that had stuff and they wanted to sell, and they go, this is what I'm looking for. And then there was clubs. Output transformers are terrible for accuracy. Arizona Audiophile Society. Atlanta. Minnesota. Audio engineer job ads. Onkyo. Onkyo tried to do some home speakers that I saw in Circuit City, but and then you can right there see this is the OEMs that they do stuff, because look at that, look at that, look at that, look at that. That's my boy T.Lo making thick top plates, telling you that underhung is the way to go, even though it's not. But it's a good, it's a good gimmick. It makes it look like a really beefy thing. Understanding Teal Small. Let's see. Was it previous? Where is it at? No. Okay, so whenever we talk about blah, 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 blah. Little history. I'll let you guys pause this because this is a good article. It's about the author. So it's so hard to without using computers to document this, and that's why these guys Teal and Small out of Australia were just real pioneers in this stuff, and they had to figure out what was important and what wasn't. And they came down to the three, which is the VAS, the QTS, and the FS. So here's a kit from Audix and Polydex, which looked like just carbon fiber drivers. I think this was sold by Parts Express with Vance's signature on it. He's like, I designed this. And then they kick him a little money, and then Parts Express is the distributor that handles the orders. So, and then that's it. Morel bringing up the rear. Ooh, that's it. Gracie. All right. I love you guys. I'm getting back to work. Talk to you later.